Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Her Focus Innings, a session by Her Second Innings with a focus on personal and professional growth for our community of women aspiring for a career comeback. I'm Jenny, the coach here at Her Second Innings, and today I have with me Shubha Chandrasekaran. Shubha is a leadership and career coach, founder director of Raincraft Creative Solutions, where she, with her team, also creates content and branding services for businesses. Her focus, apart from coaching, is on mentoring women, career restarters, and that is an area of interest, and thereby her association with Her Second Innings. She has been a part of career Her Second Innings mentor walks, and we at Her Second Innings extend a warm welcome to you, Shubha, here today. We are very grateful for all your association throughout the years, and thank you for being a part of today's session. Welcome, Shubha.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Happy to be here again. I miss our mentor walks in Cubbon Park. We have to do this virtually, but very happy to be here for the second innings community and help in whatever way I can.
Right, thank you for that. Yeah, I think hopefully by next year we should be back on to events face to face. So the topic of today's discussion is do's and don'ts of resumes for career restarters, right? And you know that our community is a community of women aspiring for a career comeback. And through various talks with them, and this resume is something which seems an informidable mountain for them to crack open. And again, this seems like a mountain between what they want, the job, and where they are right now. So starting with the basics, so why at all do we have to focus so much of importance on a resume?
Yes, Jenny. No, that's a great question because I see that this is an area of struggle and challenge for many women who are restarting, and not just women, even men and women who are changing careers or changing industries. Right? This document, this resume, becomes important because all said and done, whatever how many ever years of your career, you should be able to put it down in a simple, impactful manner that someone else can take a look at it and get a good sense of who you are, right? So a resume is important from two aspects. One is to be able to portray who you are in a very, very succinct manner so that the other person can quickly understand, right? And the second is to understand what is the job of a resume, right? Why are we still asking for this document? Okay, from paper it has moved to digital form, right? But why are we still asking for the document? What are we expecting from this document, right? I think one of the primary misconceptions is that if I have a really good resume, I'll get the job, right? Uh, First, to understand that the resume, its work is to get you the call for a discussion or interview. That's all. After that, it's still up to you to have that conversation and convince the hiring manager that you are the right person for the job, right? But in that conversation, they will again have your resume as a reference document, right? Something that they quickly look at and think, okay, what do I want to ask next? What do I want to know more? Do they really know this? Who is this person? What is their skill set, right? So the crisper and cleaner your resume is, one, it's easier to get that interview call because seeing it in those 10 seconds, they know, yes, this is fitting what I'm looking for, right? And let me put it in the pile of taking it further, exploring it further, right? And second is that whenever anybody refers to that document, they have a very quick sense of who you are and what to ask you. Right? So I think that's really what the focus is on all the discussions I have with restarters on the resume.
Okay, so you're talking about a document that helps one to get noticed, right? To even to get the first notice to a job. So how should I put my resume in the way that I will get noticed, because again, there are women who says that I have been submitting my resume to multiple places and I've never been getting a call. So is there something that each of us can do to get notice through our resumes?
Sure. Like one is let's break it up into two parts. One is the kind of the visuals and the aesthetics of it, and two is the content, right? So when I look at a resume, if I've asked for, and I hire for my team and I hire writers and other profiles, when I receive something, I want to be quickly able to see, okay, who is this person? What is their qualification? Why have they applied for this job? Are they suitably qualified? If the job requires certain specific educational qualifications, does the person have? What is their work experience be? Has it been in a similar stream? Have they done something like this in the past? Right? What are they looking for? Right? If what they are looking for, does it match what I have to offer? Right? So visually, how easy can I make it for the reader? Right? The old, and this is probably, it was okay maybe 10 years back, right? This long scrolling document of 4 5 pages where I'm trying to tell you everything that I did in my life, every project that I did, etc. Nobody has the time to read it now, right? Firstly, we have to understand that humans are not even reading it many times. Right? These documents are going through what is called ATS, or application tracking software, which is simply trying to see, hey, these 5 things are a go, no go. Right? For example, person has to be an engineer. They have to have worked on maybe Java. They should, have some experience in developing code or writing code. Some tick marks that they need. Right? The software is checking for a lot of these keywords. Right? So the one, visually, how easy can I make it for either a human reader or a machine reader to find that information? If I'm writing about where I've studied, is there a heading that says education? If it's talking about things I'm good at, is it saying skills or expertise? Right? Do I have a simple paragraph that says what is the kind of work I've done and what do I want to do next? Right? Because each person, it's not uniform, right? I may have 10 years of in IT experience as a developer, as a team lead, etc. Some may want to continue being more on the coding and developing side. Some may want to move into a more people management role. Some may want to move into a more strategic role. So are you saying, okay, what is it that I want to do next? Right? So visually, can I find everything? And then content wise, is it crisp and clear? Right? Am I saying all the right things? And for that, it's important that you link it to the job you're applying to. Like, why are we hearing from women that, hey, I've submitted my resume to so many places and not heard back? Because they have just dumped a generic resume on 20 different types of jobs. Right? Doesn't mean you need to make 20 resumes, no. But spend some more time on the job description, on the JD of the job you're applying to, and see if that really your resume will have even a 50% match, 30-40% match to what they're asking for. Don't look for 100% match, right? But at least have a 50-60% match to some of the skills that they're asking for, and so they will consider my resume. Right? That bit of fitment you should also do, because they are asking for A and you are completely, your profile has been in a different space. Then you will only feel dejected that it didn't get called.
Right.
So don't go just by the job title, but what are they actually looking for?
Okay, so you mean to say that let's see if there's a skill match, if there's an experience match. So even if a software is picking it up, that your resume has a higher chance of being picked up, right? So at this moment, I'd like to pause and talk and thank the viewers who have joined us today. I see many of you who have joined the session today, and all your questions for Shubha are most welcome. So I would like this to be a more interactive session. So just not Shubha talking about how a resume should be, or me talking about asking her a few questions. But so please feel free to post all your questions. Type it in that for all your questions for Shubha, so she'll be able to answer all your questions around all questions around resume are most welcome here. So coming back to our discussion, so you're talking about customizing a resume towards the job JD, right? So is it just about customizing with respect to the content, or do I need to have different forms of customization? Is it okay that I just have one core resume and customize it, or is there any different types of formats that I have to have available?
That's a good question. So one is definitely in terms of just the basic content, right? So you may be right now open to 2, 3 different kinds of opportunities, right? So you may want to have one which, let's say you've had a 5, 6 year career which was in technology or banking products, for example, right? And right now you want to continue that. So you are applying for jobs in the BFSI technology space, right? So then your introductory paragraph about you should focus a little more on the fact that you have the domain knowledge of banking, right? But let's say you have BFSI domain knowledge and technologies knowledge, but you are applying for something which is some other kind of industry, right? It could be something new coming up like AI. It could be just some automation software company. It could be a startup, right? So here you may want to focus more on the fact that you are a technology person who can learn new technologies quickly, right? And the banking part will play a secondary aspect because what you're going to apply for is not in the financial services space, right? So that introductory 3, 4 lines you can really play around with, and you should. And it's not very difficult. It's just about reading the job description and saying what are they looking for. See, somewhere you have read it and determined that you fit, right? There's a reason why you think that you should be applying for that job and it interests you and you want it. Just capture that in that initial few lines or your email or your cover letter so that there is that instant connect happens for both sides.
Okay.
The other one aspect to remember when you were saying types of resumes is whether something is for which audience is it? Is it an Indian audience or is it an overseas? Or are you applying to somebody? And given that now anybody can do remote work, if you're applying to a hiring manager in the US, then there is a way of the US organizations and hiring managers prefer a certain kind of resume, right? They want something which is, very little of personal information, right? It is not appreciated to have your photo, not even your gender. And, Indian resumes, we tend to put mother's name, father's name, date of birth, all sorts of things which are just, it's not necessary for India itself, but it's definitely a big no-no for, companies abroad. Stick to who you are and the work that you've done in as crisp a manner as you can.
Okay. So there are also questions coming from the viewers here, and our community being a community of returning women, the main focus there is that do I have to show my career break? And I see Ashwini's question and Rajeshree's question also. If I were to show it, how do I express it? Which part of my resume do I have to show it? Will it stop me from my resume from being picked up? So what are your thoughts around this?
Sure. I think the primary answer is yes. Definitely mention that you had a career break, and especially if it has been a significant break of 3, 4, 5 or more, even more number of years, right? When you walk into that interview or when you're meeting someone, you are going to be authentic. You are going to be who you are, right? So something like a career break is definitely going to come up in the discussion. And then you don't want that opportunity that you've got. You don't want to be wasting time on why didn't you tell us before, or why didn't you, why didn't you show that, etc., etc. Right? Be authentic, truthful in everything that you display about yourself. Now, a career break is not a crime. It's a simple fact of life that happens. Yes, it happens more to women, but it's a simple decision or a choice that you had to take at that point in time for what was most important for you and your family as a human, right? So you have stepped out for childcare, elder care, just relocation of the spouse, and it took you time to kind of settle in and look for another opportunity, whatever it may be. It has been an important event in your life, and it was important to you at that time. And now the priority of the family or priority for you is to come back to the workforce. So every decision that you've taken, own it, respect it, and don't let anybody shame you for it. Right? And that starts when you yourself are convinced and you are able to, project that, hey, I took a career break, I'm back. Right? Just like I could step out, I can step back in. Right? And in the resume, if you're doing that chronological kind of resume, put that period, right? So let's say March 2015 to April 2019, and say career break for childcare. Simple. That's it, right? If you, in that 3-4 years, if you have done any kind of voluntary work, you've done, small projects, or you've even done skilling for yourself, you've done some online courses, whatever, feel free to mention. During this time, I have tried this, I have worked on this, and this. If you haven't, because the childcare was intensive period where you didn't genuinely have time for something else, don't. But mention it so that it's all clear up front, right? Let the focus of any discussion be on what you did before and after, right? Don't let the focus of the discussion be, oh, you had a break, you haven't mentioned this, that. See, it's a different matter that the other person is not supposed to ask you like that, right? The hiring manager is supposed to see you for your skills and your abilities and what you bring to the table now, right? But sometimes conversations do veer around, okay, where were you between this time? They're also trying to just see a logical flow of your career graph. So definitely put it there, even if you want, and if this is your first start after a significant break, in your summary itself. Mm-hmm. Say, I'm a chartered accountant by profession. I did this for 5 years. I'm now resuming after a 4-year break, and this is my skill set, and this is what I want. Upfront, clean. But don't hide it, don't shy away from it. Then it becomes, in a way, you end up wasting more time talking about it.
Okay.
But you want to talk about your skills.
Okay. I think that's beautifully said, Shiba, where you said own it, but the focus of your conversation is much more than that, much more than the period of break, but what you've done before and after. So when you're talking about before and after, and again, our community of women are also more and more putting in their efforts into taking returnships programs, right? And as a part of the programs, they have their projects. So how does one put it here, and how is this viewed as? Because a lot of time there's a confusion of, hey, this is an upskilling program, so do I put it along with my job experience? And because I'm having my live projects, it is not exactly just learning as in a particular course. So how do I structure my resume to fit my after learnings?
Sure. So there are a couple of ways to do it. One is that if you want to keep your work history or work experience section to purely paid employment engagements, right? And then anything that you've done which is more for experience, for your learning, it could be volunteering somewhere, it could be taking a course, doing a project, doing an internship. You can put that as internship or project experiences. Just call it project experiences and list those one or two, right? Because for a restarter, it may be more recent than the work experience. You can put it above the work experience also, so that they know that, okay, you're still current. What you're talking about as projects, etc., has happened recently. So you're really working towards that restart, and you're building your skills, and then get into the prior work experience.
Okay, I think that helps a lot. There's also another question from Rubini, where I think I just want to know if this is a myth or reality, because a lot of time our community members get messages from the recruiter that, hey, because you've taken a break, that your resume is not being picked up. So is that the norm, or do you think I just want to know if women has to be, because there's a lot of set mindset over that, and so there's a hesitancy in even applying, thinking that, hey, no matter how many places I apply, mine will not be picked up just because I have the break. So what do you think are the current trends? So is this something one should be mindful of working through?
Sure. So I think, I've also interacted with a lot of HR folks and hiring managers, etc. Right? And the myth is really not that they don't want to hire a restarter. Like I said, more and more the trend is that the person, their current employment status, etc., should not be a criteria or should not be a barrier at all. Right? And more organizations are sensitizing and training their managers not to ask these awkward questions. Right? Focus on the skills. Are they relevant to what they are hiring? And will the person be able to contribute in the way that we need? Right? And that could be many things. That could be because of they need you to work in a certain time zone, or they need you to work on certain technologies, they need you to work on certain tools. Focus on whether this person will be able to do that or not. Correct? And what I hear from a lot of HR folks is that the reason why we are sometimes skeptical is because the resume is filled with a lot of information which they're not currently skilled at. It may have been a technology that they worked at earlier, right? But the way things are, if you don't keep abreast of it, right, it's not really your skill set now, right? So if they say we see resumes where it's filled with 5 10 different technology skills. It says I can do Java, I can do SQL, I can do this, I can do that. But when we ask a few questions, they're not able to answer. So we are focusing on the skill set, but it may feel like we rejected them because of the gap or because of other reasons. So what my advice is that put on top as your skills what you can genuinely do now, right? Don't try to kind of use everything that you've done in the past and say, hey, I know it still. Because you may not. The technology may become outdated, you have moved on, you've not been able to keep pace with it. Put the 2 3 things that you are confident of speaking about and confident of going in there day to day and doing a job. Now, if those are not relevant today for whatever reason, talk about how, you know, convince the person how you can learn something quickly, right? The fact that you have worked on complex modules in ERP in your earlier work experience, newly introduced SAP modules, whatever it is, to give me the sense that, hey, this person is a learner. If I give them something new, they will pick it up soon, right? So always approach it from what are my skills and how do I learn and how am I willing to learn more, right? Hiding the gap, and I think somebody is asking, hiding the gap is not going to serve you in any way because it's not going to disappear, right? In a conversation, where in an interview conversation, which is usually more detailed, that gap is definitely going to come. Right? They're going to ask you, okay, where are you now? What has been your last role? Right? And immediately in that first 5 minutes, it's going to come out that you have a gap. So why do you want to, make it an awkward situation like you try to hide it? You're not, and shouldn't be. There's no need to be embarrassed about it. There's no need to be that. It is what it is, right? So if you can confidently say, yes, I took a 4-year gap for childcare. My child is old enough now, and I have built my support system, and I'm ready to come back to the workplace. And these are my skills, right? It makes a far more favorable conversation for both sides.
Okay. Yeah. So it's even though it's a historical document in the sense that it documents your history, but then you're also asking everyone to pay focus to the current, to whatever skills that are relevant to what you've been studying and learning, and to show that you're excited to learn, to have that at the top part is what you're talking. So there's also a question
No,
of
even a simple line saying that, I'm a part of various communities like Her Second Innings, actively working on live projects and training myself, makes a far more favorable impression on me that the person has so much intent to come back and to do something.
Okay.
Right? So be open, honest, it's fine, right? We want to see the real person.
Okay. So when we are talking around this topic, so what about soft skills? So where and how does one put it? And as somebody who has taken a break for childcare or elderly care, is there anything that we can pull out of those experiences and document that as a soft skill?
So yeah, so this I think is it's a matter of personal choice. Some women are comfortable doing it, right? And I've seen them wanting to put it in their resume and say that not just childcare break or elder care break, but they want to add a little bit to it, saying that these 2 years of elder care has taught me this, and this, right? Which could just be a lot of patience, coordination with multiple people, empathy, compassion, right? Or managing my time so that I'm able to do multiple things for people at the same time. So they want to kind of be open and vulnerable and state that, saying that it's genuinely taught me that, right? I've grown as a person because of it, just like you grow in any other job, right? Let's say you were a coder and you moved to managing a team. That people management role of yours teaches you numerous things. Just like that, something as basic as elder care or child care, I mean, we all have gone through it. We know the number of things that we need to juggle in a day, right? And that only makes us more capable and efficient in whatever job that we're going to do, right? So, but it is a personal choice. Not everybody is comfortable kind of saying that. Like I can see there's a lot of discomfort in just saying that there was a break itself,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So you need to have a lot more comfort when you want to share openly that yes, during this period, I have learned to be more patient. I have learned to manage my time better, to take quicker decisions, right? If you have elder care, you are monitoring them on a daily basis. There are numerous decisions you're taking, right? On how to proceed on different things. So some are comfortable, some are not. Definitely, go with what you are comfortable with. You shouldn't be feeling that I hope they don't see it. I don't know why I put it. I hope they don't. It shouldn't make you uncomfortable.
Right.
It's finally you want to be your authentic self.
Something like
But if
own it.
you've done
Yeah.
any correct, yeah, just own it in the way that makes you comfortable. If you've done any courses, any kind of work with somebody, anything with volunteering, even let's say being part of a committee in your apartment complex, working with a set group of people to raise funds, to raise for COVID relief, whatever it is, all those definitely.
Okay. So where do all of this come? Because there's a question from Rajeshri asking, is the opening letter still recommended, right? So what goes into a resume and what does one need to have an opening letter right now? And if so, what goes in there?
So opening letter now, some still prefer to write like a cover letter. And sometimes it goes as a letter format, and sometimes it just becomes the body of the email, right? So that is where you can be a little more personal, right? Because a resume is still finally a formal document, right? And what you are sending to, a consultant or a recruitment firm, etc., it can travel to numerous people. So a resume is still a slightly formal document. But your cover letter or your opening or your paragraph on the email that you send, you can be extremely kind of candid about why are you applying for this job. You can say, I'm applying here because I have seen even something as simple as saying that, I have friends who are working here and I've heard a lot about the work culture. I think I'll definitely fit in. Different aspects that you may not be able to say in a resume, right? Or the kind of work that you're doing, the impact that it's having on XYZ. If they're a startup or if they're building something which you find is you're genuinely excited about, all of that can go in that cover letter or email, where you talk a little bit about yourself, saying that I am this person looking forward to doing work like this is which I see opportunities for that in your organization, and I'd be extremely happy to be there. And then talk a little bit about them, etc. All that you can do in a cover letter, which you would not be able to put in a resume.
Okay.
So do make that little bit of distinction in the content, and you can be a little more informal in that.
Okay. So now moving on to do's and don'ts to make a resume catchy. So what can be starting with do's? So what are the do's? Because I've also seen resumes that run for pages and for talking about a project, a lot of details about a project that was done 15 years back. So what do I need to pay focus to? What would be the do's that I have to attend to in a resume?
So see, finally, Jenny, resume is a professional summary, right? So we have to keep it as professional as possible, keeping in mind that we are getting literally 10-15 seconds for somebody to scan through it and get a sense of who I am. Yes, they may come back later and read it, but at least that first scan which they're doing, I want to be able to hit the right notes, right? So the sections that you want to make sure are there is a bit of that profile summary, work experience listed very cleanly, neatly. What is your designation? What is the name of the company? And what is the period that you were there, right? Uh, then, if you can, do a section on what are your key skills, what are your area of expertise. So you could say, I'm a data scientist. I'm somebody who's analytically strong. I am a people person. I'm extremely good at communication or whatever that is. What are those skills, soft and hard, that you want to kind of combine and show them, right? Then you can do a section on key highlights across various roles in my career, right? You may have got an award somewhere. You may have delivered an extremely critical project in, before time, or for a very complex client, etc. So those, 4-5 bullet points on any kind of achievements from different work experiences. Then clearly your educational qualification, and don't go as far back as your 10th and your 12th, etc. I see a lot of people put their 10th boards, 12th boards. Start with your college education. What was your graduation? What was the area of graduation? Which college? Which year did you graduate? And build from there whatever 2-3 courses that you have done, and any kind of, you can have one more section on any certifications, or like we said, any projects, etc. that you have done, right? These are the key sections of a professional resume, right? Please remove date of birth, marital status, father's name, husband's name, full address. Nobody needs any of that. What they need to be able to contact you and say, hey, we'd like to talk. So all it needs is your phone number and your email address, right? And if you're applying for opportunities which are largely, remote or work from home, you can put your base city. You can choose not to also, right? So you can say name, email address, Bangalore, or you can leave that in the header. But below your name, a simple space for name and email address, that is more than enough. Nobody is going to write you a letter yet. If they need to give you an offer letter and post it to you, you've already interacted with them enough, and there are enough opportunities to give those details, right? It all doesn't need to be in the. And remember that a lot of this information is personal information that shouldn't be in a public document. Once you send a resume to a recruiter, it's a public document more or less, right? You don't know where it's going to go. So don't, putting PAN number and date of birth and things which can actually be used for identity theft, right? So be extremely, cautious in what you put on that document, and don't put unnecessary information that just clutters the whole space, right? Um, that is in terms, and under each work experience, under the summary, use very positive, action-oriented words, not cliches. Be clear in stating what you want in those 2-3 lines, right? When you come to work experience, if you had different roles under one employer, combine it and put just the employer name only once, right? Don't describe the employer. Like if you're saying, okay, team lead at Infosys, get down to what you achieved. I see some people saying Infosys is a Fortune 500. Your job is to market yourself, not Infosys, right? So use the space to talk about you, right? Unless it's a very small startup, etc., and you want to give context to the work. You want, just putting the name of that startup or that company, if you feel that they may not understand the nature of the work that the company does because it's not so well known, you may want to say, ABC.ai, a startup in the space of XYZ. That's it. To just give context to what what you're going to describe as your work under it, right? Avoid a lot of company-specific acronyms. Right? When you were in that job, those letters may have meant something, and they mean something to you even now. But unless they are really, really industry standard terminology, right? Simplify it or expand it so that the reader can understand. Because I'll tell you, when we are recruiting and we're hiring and we come across jargon, it takes effort to stop and say, what does this expand into? I'd rather skip it. And that may have been the best project you've ever done in it. Right? But if I am not able to quickly understand that you worked on, CQS for APC for Infosys, and I don't know what CQS and APC, chances are I'm not going to take the effort to ask you. Right? And so you missed the opportunity to talk about that project. So say that this was a software tool to make invoice processing easier for clients based in businesses. Leave the jargon. Right? We're looking at what are your skills, what is the kind of work that you have been doing, right? Everywhere as clearly and as much of standard convention that you can use is best, right? So talk about and then when we come to work experience under each one, the language should be about your achievements and what are your skills that you use, right? Don't put a lot of stuff which is just job description, right? So, you may want to say, okay, I managed a 10-member team of data analysts to achieve reduction in this, right? Talk about what you achieved, not that responsible for this, responsible for this, responsible for this. That anybody who had that job was responsible for those things. That's job description. What did you achieve? Right? Every job, there's two things. One is what did you contribute to the job? What did you learn from the job? Right? Because what you learn from this job is what you take to the next job. Right? We are all the sum total of everything that we have done. Right? So put those 3-4 bullets. Talk about what did I contribute and what did I take away. That's all. Right? That makes a lot more impact than 20 bullets under a job. Right? Also, the content under each job should be somewhat proportional to the time you've spent there. Right? If I've spent 5 years with the company, yes, I will have 4-5 key things to talk about. If my next job was 6 months, it shouldn't have 20 things under it. Because I've been there only 6 months. So in my career map, it should take up less space because I would want to talk about places where I have spent more time. Right? So that's from the work experience section. And in terms of layouts, etc., there are a lot of good websites online. If you just Google, you'll find where you can kind of put your layouts in nice, simple ways. But these are the essential sections. If you have any really, good conversational interest that you want to share, for example, you are also like a home baker and you're running that as a business or as a hobby very well, or you're also somebody who blogs about something, right? And you're putting your thoughts out there, then you can mention those also as interests. Right? Some of the important don'ts, right, that I want to, one of the things I talked about is all this unnecessary information in personal data about yourself. The other thing is that, just simply from a document perspective, save it in, finally, when you send it out, save it as a PDF so that all the formatting that you've done is retained, right? Name it properly with just your name, right? Not Subhasi draft 1, final 2, it should look professional, right? Subhasi.pdf. That's my resume document, right? In your document, like I said, put your phone number and email ID. Make sure you have a good professional email ID. Create a new one if you need to, right? something that is as similar to your name so that the recall is higher even when they are searching for something from you or want to send something to you, right? So it doesn't need to be that crazy home baker and Gmail, right? Unless you're applying to the baking industry, right? So keep it as professional as possible, right? So yeah, so these are some of the kind of hygiene things to take care of. Focus on the content.
Hmm.
Right? Focus on what you are saying, not about quantity, not about having 3 pages of 3 pages is resume is one area where 1 page is greater than three.
Hmm.
Right? This is not a thesis or anything. 1 page is any day greater than 3 pages.
Hmm. So it's also beautiful where you said how to make it minimal, right? Because a lot of resumes that I've seen also goes into marketing the company, talking about the project, giving the job description, and so the focus on the person as a self, their contribution, their learnings through the project is almost lost. I think if one were to eliminate all of these things, I think, like you say, that it can be made into a very precise and concise document, right?
Yes.
So you talked
Yes.
about websites where one can use for templates. So do you have any recommendation? I think Priya also wants to know. So any specific website recommendation to go and build and check resumes?
Sure. So there is a resume builder .com, I believe. There is a myperfectresume.com. So some of these may be free, some of them you may have to pay for it. You can even go to some tool like Canva, which is a design tool, right? You can take a free account or login, and they have resume templates, right? So you can use that also.
Okay.
Even the latest versions of Microsoft Word, they help you with good resume templates.
Okay. So, and like you also do, so I know that you write resumes for others, right? So where does one find, so is there a resume writer that one can get in touch with? If so, how do they go about approaching? What do they have to look in for if they want somebody else to be writing their resumes for them?
Sure. That's a good question. I think the fundamental thing is clarity of thought, right? What do I want to bring out from my work experience so far? And what do I want to do? That is what really helps someone else who's writing your resume. Like you're not giving them your resume to just rehash whatever content you have, right? The idea is to understand what are your skill sets and to put that across in the best possible way. So have that clarity of, okay, I've worked in 3 different places and then I took my break. But in these 3 places, fundamentally, this was my role and this is what I achieved, right? Be able to tell them that. Secondly, be able to tell them about what you want to do, right? So, like I gave you the example, if you're a BFSI person, but now you want to move into more general and technology roles, give them that information because then they will looking at your resume, everything may be just saying BFSI, BFSI, but that's not what you want to do next, right? So have clarity on what did I do till now? How if a lot of these things, just think about explaining this to your niece or nephew or even your own child. Think about if you're sitting with a 10-year-old and then say, hey, I'm doing a school project and they ask me to interview my aunt. What's your area of work? How would I explain it to that person, to that child, right? Uh, I'd probably be able to get to the core of what I actually did and what are the highlights of what I did. So think about it in the same way for your resume. What is that real core of it? Put that. Everything else is a little bit of thrill around it to give context and to explain and everything. And if you're having a conversation with your closest friend and say, okay, what do you really want to do next? Right? What would that answer be? That's what your next is. So have that clarity when you approach someone to write your resume and be ready to delete a lot of stuff. Right? Don't take it personally. It's not that they are removing your life's work, right? They are trying their best to make it as effective for the reader as possible. Right? So there may be that one small project you're really attached to, but is it adding value to my resume at this point for the job that I'm looking for? Is what you need to think about.
So it's more like getting the clarity before one starts to write the resume. I think that's coming up to me, and you're sharing as one of the thing to focus on even before the work into building a beautiful resume starts. So going back a few of the questions, I think you've talked about it, but then to answer them, there's a question by Rubini which says, how does a recruiter search for CV for a role? What are the important keywords to be in my resume?
So I think for keywords, be guided by the job description or the job, the posting that you see, right? Look to that in detail and try and understand the crux of what is the kind of skill set they're looking for and what is the kind of person they're looking for, right? So when that says we need a go-getter, we need this, we need that, we need an effective communicator, that's all telling you something, right? Don't copy and paste the same words, but see how you can convey the skills that you have that are relevant for what the job description is asking. So there's no set of keywords. The keywords depends on one, what are your skills, right? So your skills themselves are keywords. So use terminology that the industry uses. Use data analyst, use chartered accountant, whatever those are, use those words, right? Use technical lead, business analyst, functional analyst, program manager, project manager. Use those words in your description, and then be guided by the actual job description to understand what are they looking for and what are those relevant keywords that I can then use.
Okay. So there's also another question. I think you've talked about this also, but just to make it a lot more clear. So Lavanya asked, I would like to know about mentioning the career break. Where exactly do I need to put it?
Yeah. So we touched upon this. So Lavanya, you can put it in your summary saying that I'm this. This is my professional space. This is my area of qualification, expertise, work experience. I'm currently at a career break, or I took a career break for 5 years for childcare. I'm now looking for XYZ, right? So put it upfront directly, clearly. The other way to also do it is that you, in your work experience kind of chronology, you put it in that time period wherever it fits in and say career break for childcare, elder care, or if you're not, just say career break, restarting now, but put it there directly.
Okay. And there are a couple of questions on salary, about bargaining, negotiating, and salary after a break. So, does salary have any scope of being referenced in a resume? So, is there any thought about salary expected, or is it at all any part of a resume?
No, typically no, because that will really vary in terms of where you're applying to, the kind of roles. You may even something as simple as a business analyst role, something may be part time, something may be full time, something may be contract or project based, right? So salary will nowhere appear. Even expectations will not appear on a resume. Uh, Unlikely it will even, you should put it even in a covering letter. You may want to add a line saying as per industry standards, but that's more of a cliche because you're expecting to be paid as per industry standards, right? That's the norm. So it's not some additional information that you are providing, right? Nobody's going to say pay me below industry standard because I'm restarting, right? So you don't need to really put that. So in the resume, there won't be any salary kind of language.
Okay, thank you for that. And Rajeshri asked, I have worked on different technology in different projects in companies. Do I summarize all of these at one place or according to the company?
Sure. So there are two types of resumes which you can even kind of Google and see. One is what we're typically used to, which is the chronological resume, where we start with the latest job on top and work backwards, right? So if I'm going to say, right now I'm at TCS, I've done, or before the break to TCS 2 years, and then let's say Wipro 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, different stints there. I can just put Wipro as one heading and give the different designations and under it. I don't have to keep repeating the Wipro. So that you have to take care of more in the layout, right? The other way to do it is what we call a functional resume, right? In a functional resume, after your professional summary, you focus on your key functional skills or key skill areas, right? So if you're, let's say, a sales or marketing person, and that's where largely your career is. So you may want to first talk, or even let's say HR. So you may want to talk about it saying, because typically in HR, the kind of work that you've done in different organizations may have been similar, right? So you can club all of that in a functional resume saying, my functional expertise, talent acquisition, write about that, recruitment or onboarding, write about that, compensation and benefits, write about the work you've done there. So cover the functional areas, right? And then list out the various jobs that you've held. So you can do that also when they are largely similar technology, etc. If they are different projects and different company kind of technology areas, then it may be better to stick to the chronological.
Okay.
Unless it's two large areas. Let's say I work largely on ERP software as one functional area, and now I've largely got expertise in some kind of AI, ML, or database management or something like that. Okay, these are my two core areas of functional expertise. Explain what all you know there, or what are some of the key highlights, achievements, stuff you've done, and then go into the list of the various jobs. So that's like a hybrid resume. You have the functional also, and you still are detailing the chronology with the projects. So you have a functional, you have a chronological, and you have a hybrid of the two.
That brings an end to the questions. And yeah, Shubha, thank you for being with us today, for taking the time to describe to us all parts of the resume, right? And much more importantly, for the focus on getting a clarity about what you'd like to express about yourself in a resume. And you also talked about owning the resume. You talked about being authentic, right? And again, you also talk about the various tools, be it getting the website recommendation. I think you've talked about the different formats of the resume, putting it all together, and also to know that, hey, that there are people like you whom we can get in touch with, right? So when there is a feeling of stuckness into writing a resume, there is one question. Let me see. Can I put in my resume if I'm ready to take up the role which is not 100% matching to my skills? If yes, and how? I think you also answered the question. Do you want to add more on that?
Yeah, sure. So I think I can add, it's a kind of one of those, again, jokes / myths that whenever there's a job openings, if men see themselves 40-50% fit, they will apply. But we women wait for ourselves to be 110% fit before we apply, right? So don't wait for 110%. Don't even look for 100%. If key skills are matching, and that may be half or 50-60% of what they're asking, but if your key skills and the overall vibe of the job, the kind of culture you feel it will be, if all of that appeals to you, please do apply and position yourself for it.
Okay. And I think this is a beautiful question by Ashwini. Now that we have LinkedIn also, which is almost like a summary of all our professional history and what we are doing currently, how does both of this, where does it link and how does it differ, and how do we project ourselves in both the spaces?
Sure. So I think, that's kind of like a discussion by itself, but it's important that you are present on LinkedIn. You have a professional page where everything about you is detailed, right? So first, create your resume, right? First, because then all your thinking, all your focus, everything will, the main work gets done. Then use that to update your LinkedIn, right? The LinkedIn, use all the sections effectively. One, make sure that the two sync up. That a recruiter today will typically also go and check your LinkedIn profile. So make sure it has the same chronology, the same details, designations, timelines as your resume, right? You can tweak your about us, to match your professional summary, but you can use a slightly more informal and personal language also. right? Saying that I'm doing this, or this is what I enjoy, and this is what I'm looking for opportunities. And this it can be a little longer than what you would put in a resume. But yes, definitely it's important to be there. It's important to sync it with your resume and kind of cover all the sections that you can. And if you're willing to, then clearly state that you're looking for opportunities. LinkedIn allows you to. I think it gives you like a circle around your profile to say that looking for opportunities. So that helps a recruiter also because finally that's what you're there for. So don't shy away from it.
Okay. And Ashwini is asking a question about should we showcase our projects done with her second innings. Shubha's mentioned that also it's important to show that it also shows that you are motivated, that you are updated, right? And there's a question from Rubini which asks, if I'm open for jobs in more than one domain, should I have different resumes for different domains? What is your take on that, Shubha?
Yeah. So if they are very distinctly different domains, then yes, you would, because your summary of what you've done and more importantly what you want to do will be different. Right? You're not going to significantly. I mean, your work experience is not going to change. You may even choose to highlight different achievements because of what you're applying for. Like I said, I keep coming back to that example, but it's relevant. Like I said, if you all your projects have been in BFSI and you're applying in BFSI, you'll choose to say it in a certain way. But if all your projects are in ERP for BFSI and you're now applying for an ERP job, you'll focus more on ERP than the domain, right? So that much of one or two versions you should have when you're applying to very different kind of jobs.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it's been a very good interactive session, and thank you for everybody for asking all of the questions to Shubha. I hope I would also encourage people who have joined in late to go back and see the video again. It would be on our Her Second Innings Facebook page because Shubha talked a lot about this, all of these in detail when she started the session. So, and if there are any more questions, feel free to reach out to me or to Shubha and help yourself find your clarity in getting what you would like to express yourself about yourself in your resume and reach out to help in the form of Shubha, help in the form of Her Second Innings. So you have a resume that you can own for yourself. And Shubha, thank you for taking time off your schedule to be with us and to share so many things, so many beautiful things about what we have to pay focus on into making a resume our own. Thank you once again.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for your association with Her Second Innings, and we hope to have you for more sessions, probably linked in the next time around.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you and wish you ladies all the very best. It's a difficult journey, but we're all with you and we wish you the very best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and bye everyone.